Hello, I'm Mac, at least for a day, and everything's going to be okay. This is going to be my viewer interview with Acidcatboogie. He's going to tell us something about No Man's Sky, and we will discuss it. Acid, you there?
Hello, greetings, traveler. How are
Yeah,
you?
go ahead and tell me your ideas.
Ideas for No Man's Sky. I think with a lot of us, we're kind of stuck in a end game loop, and I'd like to see some sort of changes towards that. I mean, out of 250 odd galaxies that we can travel through, if you've done the main stories or some of the little subplots there, you're kind of stuck with what to do afterwards. So maybe expand on that a little bit better would be kind of cool.
Yeah, there's lots of things I could do to improve Endgame, whatever you want to call it, Endgame in No Man's Sky. I guess after you complete
Mm.
all the storylines, I guess you're essentially in Endgame, and you basically have to decide what you're going to do with the rest of your time. A lot of people build bases, others travel to the center of the galaxies, others just explore. Um, I usually try to get the max amount of frigates and just keep getting Quicksilver. Quicksilver seems to be like the main thing they're giving us to do is just, do Nexus missions until Quicksilver stuff unlocks, and then we have that to do. Expeditions was a really good idea that they had, which isn't necessarily end game, but it is something that gives us a lot more to do by having us start a new game and do new objectives and everything. Sad thing is they only had two, and since they're temporary, nobody can do them anymore. So it's not even really a part of the game right now until they give us a third expedition. I wish they would have made it so that you can replay the previous expeditions instead of just making them end and no one can do them now. But yeah, what other ideas do you
I
have?
mean, do you think a continuation of of awards possibly for so the incentive is there to say continue exploring and continue heading to the center of the universe.
Yeah, I mean that that is like one of the biggest things people still complain about after all these years is the center of the galaxy is pretty much pointless. There are some, obviously, there's procedural differences everywhere, so there's some differences between the galaxies, and there's also, as we found out after Atlas Rises, certain types of galaxies. Like some galaxies are normal that have just you know, a Euclid galaxy is just a well-rounded galaxy with a variety of every type of planet. Then there's raging galaxies that have more extreme conditions planets, and then ancestor galaxies have a lot more exotic planets and now exotic biomes as they've added new types of exotic stuff. I'm in the Buttelanger galaxy, which is a ancestor galaxy, so I find a whole lot of different exotic planets. They're a lot more common. And then there's
Hmm.
peaceful
Hmm.
galaxies where there's a lot more lush planets with not extreme biomes and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but other than that, there's really not much of a reason to go to the center to go to another galaxy. I mean, you're
I mean,
still. Go ahead.
I guess it being the joy that it's an open world sandbox type of game, that it's more the community that's sort of driving what they would like to do. So you now have groups of people who are just solely working on exploration. You have communities who are slowly sort of making their way to the center, and then other ones are more into. And I think the community is ultimately driving. Well, what do we do now? We have this world set out in front of us. What do we do now? Okay, let's do X, Y, and Z or whatever there.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean, for me, it's I'm still on that quest of getting through all these galaxies, and it's taking its time. I mean, I've only racked up about 800 miles or 800 hours on this, and I'm sure there's many people out there who've racked up thousands of miles.
It's funny to think that comparatively, someone with 800 hours is less in compared to a lot of the rest of the community. When
Exactly.
800 hours in a game is an insane amount for most other games.
You can also spend that amount of hours on other types of games as well. But
Yeah,
generally, they're this open world sandbox
yeah,
type of thing.
yeah, like
And I think that
Minecraft.
these, yeah, Minecraft as a prime example.
Yeah,
But I think new players coming in, I mean, they're getting good bang for their buck. It is one way of looking at it. You know, there's a lot of these new updates are enticing new people in, and which you know, it keeps the long term players a little more engaged, but it's sort of they have to be engaged as well. They have to sort of eke out these communities or work out what they would like to do.
yeah,
And
and
you know, I'm very thankful for that. I've managed to meet people who have helped me just that little bit closer, and run into people who, you know, their thing is base building, and it's the joys of an open world game, I guess.
yeah, and largely updates are what drive older players from sticking around. I think a lot of the older players would eventually quit the game if they didn't think more updates were coming. I
Yeah,
certainly can't keep playing for too long um, without getting bored.
yeah.
I play all the new content, but eventually I have to fall back to speculating about
We
updates.
fall, yes, we fall into this infinity loop of and unless we seek out other people in the community who are like-minded and thinking, yes, this is what I want to get into. So yeah, that's my main thing. And I know I touched before on one of your videos about the possibly a PvP aspect,
Oh yeah,
um, which I think there could be certain systems for that and help guide that side of the community towards that if that's what they're looking to get
yeah.
into.
It would actually be
Um,
extremely easy, and a lot of people are going to say this is a horrible idea, and it kind of is, but it would be extremely easy for them to implement Battle Royale into No Man's Sky. All they would have to do is it would be a new mode like Expeditions, and it would start people out all on the same planet, and you wouldn't have a ship. So players would be trapped on that planet for the remainder, and it would be permadeath. So it would be a permadeath game. A certain amount of planets spawn on this planet in whatever lobby it is. It might be. I mean, I right now the max lobby is 16 on consoles, 32 on PC. So it couldn't really be 100 people battle royale unless they expanded on that. But anyway,
mm,
a certain number of players would start out on a planet, and they would have to find each other. Like there wouldn't be markers for it, and I mean it could take forever, but it would basically be, maybe they would spawn somewhat close together. They wouldn't be like super far apart,
I'm,
but I don't know what they would do. I mean, obviously Fortnite and such have a storm system that's always closing in so that you can't just spread apart. That would be a problem. I guess they would have to create something like that that would force players. Maybe they could put like a destination, like there would be a destination that everybody's got to get to, and then once you reach that
mm,
destination, you've got to defend it from everyone else. And then once everyone dies, you can interact with the target. And but of course
mm,
there would have to be some way to force people to eventually go to the target because some people could just choose to not go to it, and then there'd be no way to find them and kill them. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean it would be very possible for them to implement battle royale, but I don't really think
I
they'll
mean,
do that.
would this could potentially be? I mean, you have your three main races within No Man's Sky. So whether you're starting a game there of, okay, I'm going to follow the Viking are war, they're very much sort of the aggressive aliens out there. Whether that could potentially be a storyline that people could follow, which, as you say, sort of okay, you start from the very beginning, like a normal game, but ultimately the end goal is you're going to end up in the in sort of a PvP fighting each other type arena.
Yeah.
What do you think that could be possible?
I mean, players, obviously PvP is currently possible if everybody turns on in multiplayer the ability to
Yeah,
PvP.
and I find it's on by default. I made the
Yeah.
mistake in during doing expeditions and promptly getting killed by somebody who'd already worked that out of. Oh, it's on by default.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that was a
That's
bit upsetting. It was sort of gone. Oh, I've lost a couple hours,
that's the first thing
but
I
it is
always do
possible. Yeah.
is turn off the PvP as soon as I start a new game.
Mhm. Mhm.
So people
Um.
do that. They have PvP matches. Some people built PvP arenas and stuff like that.
Yeah, and again,
But
that is the that side of the community sort of getting together and finding something to do within this large sort of sandbox event that's going on,
yeah,
which
but as far
is great, you know.
yeah, but as far as Hello Games actually making it a mode in the game and encouraging it, probably won't because Sean Murray said before the game came out that there wasn't going to be death matches, that it wasn't going to be that kind of
True,
game.
true, and I think that sort of goes against the ethos of the whole game itself. Of yeah, this is more of a say a relaxing type of game there.
Yeah,
It's one
but
you can sort of dip in for a couple of hours and put down and leave and not worry about it too much.
Yeah, but of course, some things that Sean Murray said before the game came out that they weren't going to do, they ended up doing. Like he said, it wasn't really about multiplayer, but now we have full, complete multiplayer, mainly because that's what the community wanted. So I think the
Hmm.
best way to
Hmm.
gauge what we're going to get is just what the community is asking for the most. So like,
Yeah, and I think that that has been the saving grace of No Man's Sky, of its very sort of troubled start to where it is now, where actually there is this dialogue, there is this feedback between the people that play the game and the actual people who are putting this together.
yeah,
I'm not sure how many more years that can potentially last. I mean, we're into 6-ish
five.
years
This is
now,
the fifth
5 years.
anniversary.
Yeah, apart from sort of the early testing of it, but yeah, it's it's 5 years in there, and lifespans for these games are around about the 5-6 mark. Um, Especially with MMOs, they have a shorter lifespan, and until they change things up dramatically, it's yeah. Um, Something else I was thinking just now, actually. The, I mean, I know you spoke about sort of the what's going to happen with the space stations. Do you think this might be we may see in the future some sort of trading market go on, or sort of buying and selling between the community?
I definitely think they're going to do something, or they wouldn't have added that device there. I don't know. I think it might be just, it might end up, somebody suggested recently that it might be just like a mission to like save the space station because in the text files, there's info for the space station to be corrupted or damaged, and you can attempt to
Hmm.
repair it. A lot of people
Hmm.
won't like this because most people are dreaming about owning a space station and like building out the
Yeah,
space
well, this
station
is
and
why I
stuff.
asked. Do you think this may lead down the road of being owning a space station and being able to sort of buy and sell through
Yeah.
the network of the community?
Yeah, well, I'm saying that I think a more reasonable possibility is that they'll just make it a mission to repair repair space stations when they get damaged. So there'll be a mission where I mean this is like the most reasonable expectation so that people don't get their hopes up too much is that there'd be some kind of mission, maybe a Nexus mission where you've got to go find the device and then go to the space station and it's got some kind of warning going off that it's being taken over and then you interact with it and save it from corruption or repair it or whatever and then you finish the mission and you go turn in that mission. That would be like the most conservative guess as to what it could be. Obviously, it is possible that they might let us own space stations, especially since that is something the community has talked about. So, like I
Mm-hmm.
said,
Mm-hmm.
if we're gauging that, I do think people should temper their expectations because owning a space station probably won't mean everything that people hope it does. Um, like maybe they'll let us build in it like we do in a freighter a little bit, but I don't know if it's just going to completely transform into a totally new thing that we can. I don't know. You'll, like I said before, turning it into a Death Star to destroy planets is not going to happen.
Probably not.
That would be too much of an expectation. I think
And
I don't.
again, I think that sort of that goes off it's goes off the reservation of what the ethos of the game was there.
Yeah, and
It'll be interesting. I mean, it may sort of tie in with the next expedition. You know, it may. I mean, I'm just looking through my backpack here, and you know, I'm still running around with the myth beacon and the other
yeah,
collectible part that you get, and they don't really do anything else in the game. So you have things there that could be easily implemented into something.
yep. Um, uh, and if we're going by what the community is asking for, the two things I've heard the most this year that people are wanting is cities and a combat update. So if they've been listening to people again, like they usually do, it's likely we'll get something like cities, such as just slightly expanded settlements and some kind of update to combat.
Hmm.
And I've said
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
carry on.
Well, I was going to say,
No, no, I'm done.
I've said many times before that I would like um, more dungeons. Like the Desolation update was like my second favorite update after Atlas Rises because it added so much to do to the game. So I really hope that that is how they enhance combat is by adding more dungeons in more places in the game.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's again that feeds back into the well, I've done everything. What do I do now? And yeah, something that can. I mean, the updates were nice for new players, but something else that will just keep the long termers hanging around and keep playing.
All right, do you have much more you wanted to talk about, or should we
I
wrap
think
it up?
that was the only things that I was thinking about is potentially for those that want to play PvP and something for us end game players, I guess.
All
But
right,
that was about it.
great. All right, I think that'll do it for this conversation with Acid Cat Boogie. Did you want to say anything before I close it out? Just say goodbye or
Uh,
whatever.
farewell, travelers.
All right, I have been Mac, and this has been Acid Cat Boogie. Thank you for joining us for a day, and remember, everything's going to be okay. Special thanks to my monthly supporters, Shell Owens, JSpot51, Shannon and Jeremy, Meg Payton, Renee McLeod. It's friends like you that motivate me to keep creating.